Good evening, everyone. Welcome to PSI online lecture series. Today, we are going to have 22nd lecture of this lecture series. This is on behalf of the Physiological Society of India, the Education Committee of Physiological Society of India is conducting this lecture series regularly on 4th Saturday 7 to 9 p.m. Today we have the lecture on neuroendocrine regulation of energy homeostasis. For today's lecture, we have Professor Lata Bhagat with us. Good evening, madam.
Good evening, sir.
So, just a little introduction about Professor Lata Bhagat. She is a distinguished professor in the Department of Physiology at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Jodhpur. With a strong academic background and extensive research experience, she has made significant contribution to the field of physiology, particularly in autonomic function and wellness practices. Her scholarly work includes numerous research publications that explore the physiological effects of various interventions, including yogic breathing techniques and their impact on cardiovascular health. Dr. Bhagat has also been actively involved in academic and institutional committees of at AIIMS Jodhpur, contributing actively to the upliftment of medical education. She is teacher for wellness practices. She is teacher for physiology. She is teacher for clinical physiology, clinical things, and ethical research practices, also contributing to the medical education. Beyond her research, she serves as an editorial member and reviewer for several reputed international journals, ensuring the dissemination of high quality scientific knowledge. Her dedication to advancing medical science and education has earned her recognition as a respected figure in her domain. I welcome you, madam, in this session.
Thank you for the kind introduction and thank you for inviting me for this lecture. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we will be going to the lecture. To avoid interruption with networking, we have a recorded presentation, and recorded presentation will be presented now, and madam will be available for any doubt, any question, any queries posted during this session and afterwards also. So madam, on your behalf, I am starting the session. So please be with us, and I will be keep you in the backstage. The presentation will be on the front stage. Myself also will be in the backstage. Whenever if anything, any issue come, we can come to the front stage. Thank you, madam. So we'll first listen to this.
Namaskar everyone. Today we are going to discuss the neuroendocrine regulation of energy homeostasis. Energy homeostasis. Before going into the detail of this, let's understand the well-known concept of homeostasis first and how we are saying that energy homeostasis is very important. Homeostasis as a concept is well known to us all. So, it is the ability of the body to maintain stable internal environment despite the ever changing internal and external perturbations and the cues we are getting all the time. This dynamic equilibrium is crucial for maintaining health and overall well being. So, what are the parameters that are statically regulated? The main variables that are homeostatically regulated are blood gases, that is arterial PO2 and arterial PCO2, the ions like potassium, calcium, and hydrogen, core body temperature, mean arterial pressure, blood glucose, volume, and osmolality. So, it is important to maintain them all to a very prescribed, required, narrow range. And we all are aware of it. So the question arises, how does maintaining a constant value for these physiological variables sustain life? And what is the cost to the body of maintaining these constant values? Any answers for this question? Okay. So, what are we getting by maintaining all these parameters to a constant value or constant range? This provides us with the optimal cellular environment for enzymatic activities. And we all know that enzymatic activity are required for ATP generation, which is a energy currency of the body. On the other hand, how are these maintained? We need ATP for the maintenance of the these variables to a constant value. So ATP or energy is the output of the whole homeostatic system and also the cost of homeostatic mechanisms. Therefore, how to define energy homeostasis? Energy homeostasis is defined as a balance between energy intake and energy expenditure and is regulated by complex molecular and physiological processes. These processes are required to be in physiological integration of various signals coming from the organs such as liver and brain and from fat, muscle, and gut. Nutrient related signals also are there, and also there are influences from postprandial, neuronal, and hormonal signals. So, is it just the energy in is equal to the energy out? But energy in is also a complex process as it is regulated by not just the homeostatic regulators, but also hedonic influences are also there. So you have hunger, which is homeostatically regulated, but we do have social cues, emotional moods, and cultural inputs, which are modulating our food intake and thereby energy intake. On the other hand, exercise plays a vital role in energy utilization, but most of the energy is being utilized in basal metabolism and adaptive thermogenesis. So, input is not exactly equal to the output. Whatever we are getting is converted only 40% of it into the ATP, thereby energy, and out of which 60 to 70% is utilized in maintaining the basal metabolic rate. And also we should understand that there is a constant demand of fuel to make ATP and perform the task. This is paired with intermittent ingestion of fuels. Therefore, we can divide our day into various metabolic phases as we take our breakfast, dinner, and lunch. So the whole whole day can be divided into the digestive phase, fasting phase, or interdigestive phase. Right? You can see that glucose levels during these three metabolic phase, and you can see that with the intake of food, glucose rises way beyond the prescribed range, but then it comes down. And but if you see that the average value is maintained. So we now understand that as you are taking food, so we are in the digestive phase. Or what is happening in the digestive phase? In digestive phase, circulating fuel typically rises to the level that exceeds the metabolic need of the body. This excessive fuel are not wasted, but they are partitioned into various storage depots. And these storage are like you have glucogen for glucose, for free fatty acid, triglycerides are there, and for amino acid, it is protein. Insulin plays a very important role in the metabolism during this phase, and it promotes the anabolic synthesis and storage process, such as uptake and storage of glucose by glycogenesis and uptake and storage of amino acids and triglycerides. Whereas in interdigestive phase, that is between the meals, or fasting phase, whereas when we are sleeping or we are doing our another activities, physical work, the levels of these fuels tends to decline. And therefore, the major challenge associated with this fasting phase is to maintain the blood glucose levels above a critical threshold of 60 to 70 milligram per deciliter. And how is this happening? It is happening with the help of hepatic glucose production and glucose sparing. Here, the metabolism is majorly regulated by glucagon that promotes the catabolic process to supply glucose to the brain, and by breakdown of glycogen via glycogenolysis, synthesis of glucose by the gluconeogenesis, and synthesis of ketone bodies as an alternate fuel source to spare the glucose for the brain and RBCs to be utilized. Apart from glucagon, Epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, and growth hormone play a role in mobilizing energy stores and control of circulating glucose and lipids. Now let's look at the fate of the fuels during digestive and fasting phases. Glucose fed in the fed phase is being utilized for ATP generation in almost all the tissues. Whereas in fasting phase, there is an use of alternative fuel along with the breakdown of glycogen and other stores to release glucose in the blood, and the uptake of glucose is also being reduced. Right. And what is the alternate fuel source is utilized during the fasting phase is the free fatty acid or triglycerides. And in fed phase, glucose is used to make these free fatty acid by de novo synthesis. Amino acids are also utilized to generate or produce glucose with the for energy provision via the process of gluconeogenesis, and therefore you can see that glucose is very important fuel and which needs to be there throughout, even in the digestive phase or the unfed phase or the fed phase. So fasting or fed phase both has glucose, and the maintenance of glucose is very, very important for energy homeostasis as such. So let's try to understand the concept of regulation of energy homeostasis. As we have seen that this has got two components, energy intake and energy utilization. So let's first talk about the energy intake and role of central nervous system in it. So hypothalamus is very important. It coordinates a host of homeostatic system. Hypothalamus must sense a broad array of nutrients, metabolites, hormones, and other factors. And arcuate nucleus plays a unique role in sensing peripheral signals because of its location at the base of hypothalamus, adjacent to median eminence, a circumventricular organ that lies outside the blood-brain barrier, and this allows it to have a direct sampling from the blood. So, how your arcuate nucleus serves to sense the humoral signals and convey this information to the downstream structures. The core of the CNS melanocortin system lies in arcuate nucleus, which integrates the peripheral signal of energy balance and modulates the feeding and energy expenditure. Arcuate nucleus has got the POMC neurons that produces alpha MSH and beta MSH. Beta MSH is very important in humans, and this acts on the downstream melanocortin receptor 4, which plays a crucial role in suppression of feeding or food intake. Arcuate nucleus also has got the AGRP neurons, which also contains the inhibitory neuropeptide Y and GABA. It releases AGRP and other inhibitory peptides to antagonize the melanocortin receptor activity, thereby increase in the feeding. And also they inhibit the other paraventricular nucleus to increase food intake and decrease the energy expenditure. Apart from this, we have ghrelin, leptin, and serotonin, which are acting on these POMC neurons and AGRP neurons. Leptin inhibits AGRP cells and ghrelin activate them. Whereas, on the other hand, leptin promotes the action of POMC neurons along with the serotonin. Leptin also acts on unidentified neurons that represent a major modulator in melanocortin system. Apart from hypothalamus, hindbrain plays a very important role in controlling the feeding via gut-brain axis. And how it is doing it? It is responding to the signals coming from gut, its status due to stretch, and the nutrients which are there. This humoral signals from gut are acting on area prostema, which is outside the blood-brain barrier because of its location at the base of fourth ventricle in the caudal medulla. And there are other signals that convey to hindbrain via afferent vagal fibers whose soma lies in the nodus ganglion. And all these signals converge to the NTS and promotes the meal termination. All the outputs from area prostema and NTS includes the dorsal nucleus of vagus, which sends the signal for parasympathetic influence on altering the gut motility. Here we must emphasize the importance of GDF15, which is secreted by many tissue in response to stress, such as infection, cancer, pregnancy, or cardiovascular event. It acts via the brainstem glial cell derived neurotropic factor family receptor alpha like receptors, that is GFRAL, to modulate nutrient intake and has been associated with anorexia, cancer cachexia, hyperemesis gravidarum. Also, GLP-1 act via acting on the CGRP receptors. CCK or cholecystokinin also has action to play for the anorexia or aversion. Apart from that, the stretch sensing vagal afferent that expresses GLP-1 receptor and also the oxytocin receptor, they suppresses feeding via the NTS. In contrast, the nutrient sensing vagal neurons, including those which expresses GRP65, VIP, and somatostatin, do not appear to control feeding, and their precise role is yet to be determined. So hypothalamus and hindbrain has a role to play in the energy intake. Now let's go to the homeostatic regulation via the peripheral signals. What are the peripheral signals which works for the energy intake regulation? There are multiple peripheral signals that modulate the energy intake, and most critical is leptin. And what is leptin doing? We have seen that leptin is critically important because the absence of leptin is associated with absence of appetite control. Leptin can be considered as necessary for the food intake control, but it is not sufficient. Ghrelin is also a potent orexogenic hormone that derives from stomach and increases before meals and decreases after you complete the feeding. Apart from these, you have GLP-1, GIP, amylin, and other nutrients which also works for the intake modulation. We also have autonomic input and output modulating the energy intake by modulating the GIT function as such. So, can we name a few key hormones that are involved in metabolic homeostasis? They are insulin, glucagon, leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, epinephrine, thyroid hormone, and growth hormone. Now, a little about the energy expenditure. Energy expenditure is critical component of energy homeostasis, and we all know that resting energy expenditure accounts for approximately 70% of total energy expenditure. Physical activity is second significant contributor of energy, that is 20% of daily total, and digestion of ingested nutrients also contribute to energy expenditure. Thermic effect of food accounts for about 10% of the daily total. This resting energy expenditure is regulated by several mechanisms, but it is mainly mediated by thyroid hormone. And you all have seen that the patient with hypothyroidism has a slow metabolic rate, therefore it gains weight because of the low energy utilization. And the person with hyperthyroidism, the weight loss will be there. So this is main hormone which acts for the energy expenditure. Apart from thyroid hormone, epinephrine and norepinephrine are critical regulators of metabolism across the multiple organs, but a precise role in regulating resting energy expenditure remains difficult to define. Then the other two component of energy expenditure is voluntary activity, or we call it as exercise, though they are not synonymous, and also the non-exercise activity, which increases the NEAT, that is exercising energy thermogenesis, which is the thermogenesis or the energy expenditure due to the activities which we do for our day-to-day work, like taking stairs, folding our clothes, standing in the kitchen. Some activities are these also has the energy expenditure, which plays a very important role in the overall physical activity related energy expenditure. Now, let's precisely try to focus on the hormonal regulators of energy. Homeostasis, we can divide them into peripheral and the hypothalamic and pituitary hormones. So, peripheral neuron are first, it is leptin secreted by adipose tissues. It acts on hypothalamus to suppress the food intake and increase the energy expenditure. Ghrelin, which is produced by the stomach, it stimulates hunger and promotes food intake. Insulin secreted by the pancreas and it facilitates glucose uptake and suppresses appetite via hypothalamic signals. Glucagon like peptide and glucagon also acts on the system and it inhibits appetite and enhances the insulin secretion. Peptide YY releases postparentally and it decreases appetite by inhibiting the orexogenic neurons in the hypothalamus. Apart from them, glucocorticoids are very important because they promote gluconeogenesis in the liver while reducing glucose uptake in peripheral tissue, ensuring a steady supply of energy during the stress. Now, hypothalamic and pituitary hormones, first and foremost, is corticotropin releasing hormone, which regulates stress response and energy expenditure, thyroid hormone, that is important for maintaining the basal metabolic rate and promoting the energy utilization, growth hormone, which influences metabolism and lipid mobilization, melanocortins, alpha and beta MSH, suppresses appetite and stimulates energy expenditure. So, can we call energy as the synonymous to glucose or glucose synonymous to energy? Let me put forth my argument. Body utilizes the three types of fuels, glucose, fats, and amino acid, but glucose is the primary fuel. Glucose is essential for tissues like brain and red blood cells, even in rest for basal metabolism. Body stores fat to utilize it for generating or producing glucose via the process called as gluconeogenesis. Therefore, we can say that glucose is the universal fuel. It is important for thermogenesis, though proteins has a higher turnout. For moderate to high intensity exercise, glucose is utilized as the main energy source. Compared to fat and protein, glucose provides quick energy because of its breakdown processes are not very complex. And the biochemical pathways for glucose metabolism are ancient and they are highly conserved across the species. So, to an extent, you all will agree with me that though they are not synonymous, that for homeostatically regulated parameters, we can consider glucose as synonymous to energy. So let's see whether the glucose is homeostatically regulated. Yes, glucose is homeostatically regulated. It is found in the extracellular fluid. It is very critical to the life of an organism. There are sensors to sense the levels of blood glucose in the body. Blood glucose concentration has a set point, and also there are multiple negative feedback systems are in place to maintain the value of blood glucose within a narrow range. So, whenever we are doing any homeostatic mechanism or we are trying to put, we know that there must be stimulus, sensor, input signal, integrator, output, target, response, and a negative feedback in place. So let's have a look to the stimulus. If the stimulus is the increased blood glucose level, beta cells in the pancreas senses it and compare with the set point, and what it does, it increases the insulin secretion, and which acts on most of the tissues to increase the glucose uptake. In liver and muscle, it increases the glycogen synthesis and decrease the glycogenolysis. And in liver, gluconeogenesis has been reduced or stopped. Thereby, what is the response? Response is the decreased plasma glucose level, which is required or which is the desired, and this information is then sensed back to the plasma glucose level to the beta cells of the pancreas, that now the levels are being restored to the normal values. In the blood glucose, it's not just the increase in blood glucose is being sensed. There are another sensor also available, which is in the alpha cells of pancreas, which senses if the blood glucose levels are going down. What they do, it increases the glucagon secretion. Glucagon goes to the liver and increases the gluconeogenesis and increased glycogenolysis, and both of these things are going to increase the plasma glucose levels. And on the other hand, adipose tissue are being forced to increase the lipolysis, thereby increased plasma fatty acids to be consumed so that the glucose can be spared. And thereby there is an increase in plasma glucose levels, which are being sensed via the negative feedback to the sensors. Information has been. So both insulin and glucagon are manipulated to maintain blood glucose levels within its set range. Not just insulin and glucagon, there are many other players which play important role in the maintenance of blood glucose levels in various situations. One of it is glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids in stressful conditions increases glucose levels by their action on liver to increase the gluconeogenesis, in pancreas by decreasing the insulin synthesis and beta cell destruction. In muscle, it decreases the glycogen synthesis and glucose uptake, whereas it increases the proteolysis. And in adipose tissue, it increases lipolysis, and fat accumulation is now reduced in the peripheral stores. This action will increase the blood glucose levels and restore it to the required value. Another important hormone is thyroid hormone. What it does, it regulates lipid homeostasis, influence sustainability of uh, obesity. It directs pancreas development and function. It enhances MAFA expression in the beta cells. It regulates feeding behavior, control energy expenditure via the action on hypothalamus. In skeletal muscle, it determines the shift from type 1 fibers to the type 2 fibers. It also influences the regeneration process and thereby increase the energy expenditure. It also affects the brown adipose tissue to regulate adipocyte proliferation and differentiation and the thermogenesis. So overall, glucose has got a homeostatic mechanism which has got multiple players to have it in the regular or normal prescribed required levels. These homeostatic mechanisms are adjusted up and down like a volume knob. And in case of glucose homeostasis, meal is a kind of switch which acts for or against these values to be regulated up and down. And if the mechanism goes wrong or something happens to the regulation, you will have the dysregulation and the clinical implications will be there. So any disruption in the neuroendocrine control can lead to metabolic disorders such as diabetes mellitus. Dysfunctional insulin signaling leads to impaired glucose metabolism, and we all know there are various disease profiles which we see in diabetes mellitus. Obesity is another very important clinical scenario. Nowadays, people have accepted obesity as a dysregulation or of the endocrine neuroendocrine control of energy homeostasis. And why actually obesity is happening? Because of the impaired leptin signaling or increased ghrelin levels and other hormonal and genetic influences which promotes the excessive food intake and reduce the energy expenditure. Anorexia and cachexia is another important conditions which can be there due to the abnormal hypothalamic responses that can suppress the appetite and energy utilization. Thank you all for the patient listening, and now I'm ready to face or handle few questions if there are any. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for your Nice presentation. Very good presentation. It's really very impressive presentation, madam. And I was listening throughout, and I was so happy. Really, very good it is. Few things I would like to mention here. Yeah, madam, is it okay? You can hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, fine. So it's really thank you very much. It's a very good presentation, and I hope all our participants, not many really online audience. Most probably they are busy with the IPL, so uh, not many questions, not any question till now. Only thing what I feel like a few 2 points I would like to mention here about that. I think by mistake, thyroid gland you have included in the uh, hypothalamus and pituitary thyroid hormone. Yes,
Oh, actually, no,
it might be
the
that I just want to. I wanted to
so
like
it is not
confirm that
the
whether
see,
it is you want to talk about TRH or thyroid.
yes, because I've already talked about thyroid in energy expenditure. Therefore, I wanted to talk
Include
about the
TRH. TRH,
TRH.
TSH, yeah,
Yes,
TRH, TSH. Yeah, I agree with that. It's like
I'm sorry.
clinically,
It really
no. It's not. It's a just a
occurred to
regular
me
mistake.
while back. I'm sorry.
No, it's nothing to. It's a mistake. Like that's what I also thought that it must clinically TSH is more important.
Yes, so I wanted to go for that TSH and TRH. I want to include in the hypothalamic and pituitary, because that is what is even more important for thyroid regulation.
Okay. Another thing, madam, I just wanted to so like clinically, normally we whenever there are some critical conditions, we say that it's like is it the glucose to be given to support the energy like terminally sick or critically sick patients, we say that we should give them glucose. So I really feel that your point of synonymous use of glucose and energy is clinically very important, because clinically that's the immediate source, or say for your words, layman's, take borrowing your words, that because they don't need much complex procedure, clinically glucose is given immediately, so that they can be a ready source of fuel for the cells. That could be so. That's also a
Yes, sir.
very important point you have emphasized here.
Yes.
Madam, as you can see, one question is there. Uh, what are the potential implications of research on energy homeostasis for the prevention and treatment of metabolic disorder?
Uh, See, metabolic disorders are many. It's not just the main which are related to energy homeostasis, but yes, because as such, metabolic conditions is there any echo of my voice or something?
No. It's clear, very clear.
Okay. Uh, so what I'm telling you is when we talk of metabolic diseases, there are many metabolic diseases, and nowadays we know that there are many genes which involves in the metabolism, and thereby that has become more important as such. So genetic thing, but as a preventive measures, Yes, we must go for the major players now. Leptin and ghrelin are has came up in last 20 years. When in our lifetime, when we started our journey as physiologists, we have seen this. The research has given us this aspect of obesity. So therefore, yes, the research in these aspects also is very, very important. Maybe
Yeah,
we
I
can
also
have,
agree.
maybe we can
I also
have
agree with
something
you.
more important, and maybe we can get a pharmacological intervention to have preventive measures for these metabolic diseases. So yes, it is important.
In fact, earlier we had that bariatric surgeries clinically that used to be given for the gastric means obesity. Bariatric surgery used to be. Now there are some pharmacological drugs which are like
Yes,
maybe used.
GDA 15 is hugely now tried for this, because it causes the aversion for the food. So it is now greatly used, and there are many molecules which are still in the second or third phase of trials, and few are already in market.
So, thank you, Shrestha, for your question, and I think you got your answer. And mm, no more question. Dr. Sandeep Sinha and Dr. Banerjee, they have mentioned that nice discussion and nice presentations.
There's
So,
one question, like Dr. Shampa Sarkar Viswas has written, just we have a question. That's it. So I don't
okay,
know.
oh no, she has mentioned that this question is there. In because beginning I didn't notice that. That's why
Okay.
she mentioned that it is there. So, thank you very much, madam. Really, we had a good session, and thank you for.
Thank you very much for inviting me and giving me this platform to share uh, whatever I know a little to the larger audience. And I'm really sorry for the mistake which I made. I actually wanted to have put it TSH and TRH in the regulatory mechanisms. Thank you very much.
Uh,
In
sorry, madam.
terms of
Yeah,
there's a
you have a question.
this I can see that question is, in terms of obesity regulation, should it be limiting of diet in terms of energy or hormone regulation? It is both. Actually, if you limit the diet only, it may not occur, and you can have, because regulation is important, and hormones plays a very important role in a complete homeostasis in the energy, when the energy balance is being. So both are important. You cannot just therefore now it is taken as a clinical condition. Obesity is no longer considered as a condition of uh, eating a lot. It is now considered a condition which is difficulty in regulating this energy. So not just only if you say that you have to have your thyroid in place properly, your TSH levels and your T3 T4 levels are has to be, because if they are not in right range, there will be the problem of basal metabolic rate, and thereby even if you don't eat anything, or don't eat very energy rich food, you may gain weight. So that is important. So hormones has their roles to play, as well as the energy intake, And see, because if even if we say that fat kam kar do, carbs like, if we eat more carbs and reduce fat, we know that body can make fat out of our uh, glucose only. So intake is very important. How you are plating your dietary plate, how you are what is the proportion of which major and minor nutrients, that is also important. And so the hormonal regulation, because if somehow you are sympathetically overreactive, that also will have problems with your weight. There are people who eat a lot but cannot gain weight. So both are important. I will not say
Yeah,
that one
both should be
both
both should be going
has to be
hand in
considered
hand.
when you are talking of obesity or prevention of obesity.
Okay, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
from on behalf of the Physiological Society of India, and the organizing committee, that's the Education Committee, I sincerely extend my sincere thanks to you and the Dr. Rakide Sharma and Shrestha, Dr. Sina, Dr. Banerjee, and Dr. Sarkar, Dr. Sayon Kaur, Dr. Govindrajan. That's all. So that's all for the session, and I go for, yes, any other. Okay, sound
Thank you,
echo
sir.
is going on. Okay, thank you, madam. So
Thank you.
we'll be going for the end video. So good night, everyone. Thank you.